Hey, it's FL Teams Live. We're here on Wednesday night, as almost always. I'm Jeff Macolino. Joining me is my co-host Celine Dion. Uh, no, Jeremiah Hensley was a champ last week, and of course, as thousands of you have already seen through either my TikTok or Instagram or FL Teams social media. Jeremiah, of course, belted out an excellent rendition of "My Heart Will Go On" last week. If you missed it, make sure you check it out, folks.
Hey, you know what? I hung in there like a champ. You know what I'm saying?
You did.
I made it through there, even through the bad. I just love that I made your son literally fall on the floor laughing. That's a great compliment.
Yes, yeah. Well, we'll go with that. Sure. It's kind of the dead time in the NFL, but we got stuff to talk about. Here's the thing we're going to be talking about until things are resolved. The biggest, the most important position on the field is the quarterback position. There was a late breaking thing I saw regarding the Miami situation. There was also stuff this week coming out about the Bucs situation. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they don't have any problems at the quarterback position right now. But the Bucs, it looks like Kyle Trask is a lot of rumors going around that he's likely going to be the guy they give the ball to, and they'll probably draft someone probably relatively early to kind of, provide some potential competition. Tua, again, I just saw this in the little bit of time I had between shows today.
Yeah.
But it sounds like there was some admission that they know that the health problems are going to be a concern for the long term. So any thoughts on that before we talk more league wide?
I was kind of surprised to see Chris Greer say it, but I like it. Everybody's talking about you're in that fifth year. What are you going to do? And, he literally, said, hey, yeah, of course we're aware that this may be a bigger issue. Now, what he followed it up with is, that's the risk you take with anything, and it's not going to affect whether or not, we extend him long term, which is great rhetoric. But it is, because if you weren't worried about it, you'd go ahead and get him on the cheap now. But I think you got to understand, and the NFL's teaching us every year that you've got to be deep at every position, especially quarterback, the way that it's moving. And I know we're going to touch on some of the rule changes, but they kind of address that in one of the rule changes that's proposed. But on the big news, the Oos, Tua turned 25 this week. Had a huge party. Rick Ross coming in, making it rain, and a couple of NFL players that tweeted out some stuff about being at the party, and a couple of potential free agents. Look, I've said this all along, good or bad about Tua. The guy seems like a genuinely good human. People seem to like him. He seems fun. He seems like he's a good leader that people can get around. Now, if he can stop getting concussions, and maybe the judo classes that he's taking to learn to fall will help with that. He's literally training in judo, and what's the other one? Something, basically 2 martial arts to learn to fall. So look, it's a concern. It has to be, because last year that's what kept Miami from being as explosive as they could have been. When Tua was on the field, that offense was completely different, and you built the talent on the offense around Tua. So when he goes down, it's not an easy plug and play.
Yeah, well, and we've talked about it before. I think the biggest concern where Miami is situated is they really don't have choice but to invest in a backup quarterback this offseason. Now, the good news is there's a lot of free agent quarterbacks out there. And some, potentially Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, the Dolphins aren't shooting for a starting quarterback, but as a backup, Aaron Rodgers, everything's still waiting on him. Derek Carr is sitting out there in free agency. Marcus Mariota was released by the Falcons. I don't know that he necessarily fits what the Dolphins try to do on offense. Baker Mayfield, would he be happy taking? Is he going to have a choice but to take a backup role? Like, I'm curious with some of these guys in that Baker Mayfield area. Jimmy Garoppolo is probably a starter. Then you got Daniel Jones. I think we'd all be shocked if the Giants don't figure out a way to keep him in their organization at this point. I think, even though he wants a lot of money. Lamar Jackson, kind of pie in the sky, maybe.
I read an interesting take
Smith.
on Daniel. I read an interesting take on Daniel Jones. Is they said, look, if he's truly asking for that much, as the GM of the Giants, the best thing you can do is shake his hand, tell him you appreciate that, and then franchise tag him. And if anybody wants to pay him that, at least you get compensation, right?
Yeah.
You can't invest the 45. That's insane. And I think there are some interesting people. You talked about Kyle Trask. I think Jimmy Garoppolo can continue his legacy of being the bridge, right? He's becoming the Ryan Fitzpatrick almost. Garoppolo coming into Tampa and holding that spot, or at least competing with Kyle Trask to see what you've got. I could see that working.
Do you think he is willing? I've always felt bad for Garoppolo to an extent, because I felt like he's never been the guy. He's always the guy before the next guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably, frankly, what he is. But do you think he wants to go somewhere where he knows, I've got this young kid behind me, I'm not going to have a lot of leash? Maybe that's just where the market dictates is, look, you'll be day one starter, but you're going to be needing to mentor this young guy too.
Yeah, but I mean, are there really clear-cut spots where you're going to walk in and just be the guy? I mean, I guess Indianapolis, right? Maybe New Orleans. Atlanta is even
the Jets.
Atlanta is even banking on Desmond Ridder. In Washington, they're big on Sam Howell. There's other things that are in play in these places. So I think guys like a Baker Mayfield, do I think Baker would be comfortable being a backup? I don't think that's his ideal, but I think in a weird way, Miami becomes attractive to a short-term backup quarterback who really isn't happy being a backup, because, I mean, it is what it is. We just got to call it like it is. I mean, Tua missed games pre-concussion Tua, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tua misses games, and you've got a lot of weapons that can make a quarterback's job really easy. So if you're willing to be patient enough and be that teammate who's sitting there, there's a real good chance you're going to get to showcase yourself at some point. Unfortunately, it's been Teddy Bridgewater and Jacoby Brissett that got to show that off before, and that didn't work out. Yes. So I think Miami definitely upgrades the backup QB. I would like a guy like Baker Mayfield. I've said over and over, because what I see in Baker is a guy who can come in and be a gunslinger short term and give you an opportunity to win. You don't put Baker Mayfield in a game to manage the game, right? I mean,
right.
When he came in with the Rams, you just start throwing the ball all over the field, and the guy has enough talent that sometimes if you just dumb shit down for him and he doesn't, do anything but just play football, he can actually show up.
I'm still shipping Jameis Winston to Miami as their backup quarterback.
I'm not.
Although he even was in the news saying, "Hey, I'm still under contract with the Saints, so until I know otherwise, that's going to be my goal, is to win that job." I don't see that happening, but at the same time,
the one true starter job. Well, you mentioned the Jets, but the Raiders, right? I mean, whoever goes to Las Vegas is.
Well, and with all these situations, this is the weird part. I remember Sean Payton made a call years ago saying, "I really wish free agency happened after the draft," because he said that in response to when the Saints signed Adrian Peterson and then drafted Alvin Kamara in the third round. They needed a number 2 running back. They didn't know they were going to get one in the draft, and now you have a mess of people. Quarterbacks are in the same boat, because you don't know that your teams that you sign with. Jimmy G is probably the most likely to have this happen to him. As you could sign with Carolina and they go draft a quarterback with the number 9 pick. the Raiders, who says they don't get Anthony Richardson in the draft,
Right.
so you could think you're signing on to be a starter, and then all of a sudden you have a first round pick breathing down your neck. So it could create some interesting friction with, again, it just seems like Rodgers not being a free agent. Lamar Jackson's never going to hit the market. He'll be franchised and maybe traded. Same with Daniel Jones. Derek Carr is the best one actually on the market, but he's, 10 to 15 maybe, as far as, he's good but not great. Then you got a bunch of guys who are, between 20 and 40 in the quarterback rankings in this league. It's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
I saw some craziness floating around too, where people were talking about the Bears possibly trading Justin Fields and then drafting a quarterback at 1. It's such a weird world, dude, that you don't have a reach on a young guy.
It makes sense in the regard of they know they're not going to compete this year. If you get a guy who will be on his rookie year an extra 3 years over Justin Fields, and you look, and if you like the quarterback, you can get at number 1 better than Justin Fields. And then look, I if I'm the Texans, I would trade the number 2 pick for Justin Fields
in a minute.
I mean, I guess if they like whatever quarterback was going to fall to 2 better, then that wouldn't make sense. But I can't imagine the Bears don't. I saw odds-on favorites pass through my phone today, the Vegas odds, and the number 1 team for Justin Fields' next team, if he leaves the Bears, was the Saints. They don't have a pick till number 29. If that's good enough to get Fields, then maybe we value him more than the rest of the NFL does. I don't.
Look, Justin Fields, man. The bottom line is this: the Bears were bad, obviously, but they were way worse than even the record. Justin Fields kept them in games and won games that they had no business being in. Right? I mean, the guy did some spectacular stuff, but it is just such a weird thing. Again, we're watching the progression of the league, right? When you had your Peyton Mannings and they were drafted, your Troy Aikmans, whatever, these quarterbacks were allowed to come in and struggle. It was understood. They were going to Aaron Rodgers sit behind somebody and learn, right? And we're just not in that place anymore. And you got to wonder if it's going to level back out, It's automatically a guy in his second, third year. They're like, oh, got to move on. And you're like, well, I mean, there's flashes. Like, do you allow this to progress? It's just chasing the dragon.
Threw in the towel on Jalen Hurts before this season.
100%.
And that's third year. That's when you should be starting to show significant signs of progress. But no, people look at Zach Wilson. The kid's got no shot, and he's still a young kid. It's kind of crazy. You're right. And I think this transitions us nicely into just talking about the running back position. Because that's a position that's also it's significantly changed. And what team isn't in the market for a running back? Because at this point, unless you have just an undeniable superstar talent, and even then, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, they're injury prone. Jonathan Taylor didn't have a great year, and he wasn't injured for most of it. Alvin Kamara, there are great talents, but you're still only as good as when you can get on the field. Kamara's probably going to miss half the season with a suspension anyways. But
all right. Well, I mean, look, unless your name is Derrick Henry, there's no.
And even he missed half of last year. So you need to always have that backup. So it just seems like it may have been on our chat. We floated the franchise tag numbers, and it's like, look at how low the running back position is. I think it was second lowest outside of kicker punter. I think it was only higher than one other position. That is insane to me.
It's really crazy. And and it's already started the whole running back by committee started to devalue that and water it down. But even more interesting in that is we look at the pool that's going to be there this year. I mean, through the draft, everybody's touting that this may be one of the best running back classes in a decade. Right? You've got 10 potential, could be discussed first, second round running backs. that are going to be in this draft. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how that market shakes out, because look, you're going to be in that position and so am I. All right. You're the Saints. You know, you got to have something to plug for Kamara. Is this something that you feel comfortable going and getting a mid-level vet? People that were highly valued at one time. When we look at this class, there are unsung heroes there. Jamal Williams, who backed up Aaron Jones for forever, and then goes to Detroit and rushes for 1,000 yards. And I don't know for sure, but he had to be close to leading the league in touchdowns last year.
I think he did. He had 17 rushing. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's insane. And then Kareem Hunt, who's been behind Nick Chubb and is a guy that was, a go-to that you could keep running this through. Playoff Lenny. Leonard Fournette's going to be released.
He's going to be cut. Joe Mixon might be cut if they don't get a restructure deal with him. And you got the league-leading rusher, Josh Jacobs, there too.
Right. And then Saquon Barkley.
And Saquon's obviously the top of the class, and the Giants can't franchise both he and Jones.
No. And well, look, here's the other thing. There's names as you go deeper down this list, right?
Mostert.
Like Mostert's there, Jeff
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders. And David Montgomery. David Montgomery, just because he's been stuck in Chicago, I'm telling you, as a fantasy football player, Montgomery, I've been riding him as a solid late pick that is productive every year. David Montgomery is a back who can come out and produce. The most interesting name to me in all of this too is Tony Pollard, right? Dallas has a decision to make. Are you going to spend the money to lock up Tony Pollard, who led all NFL running backs in yards per touch last year? Or are you going to hang on to Zeke, right?
Seems unlikely they keep both of them, kind of. Even though you need 2 running backs, it seems like a lot of money in that position.
It really does. And then, like I said, coming out of college, you got guys like Bijan Robinson coming out of Texas.
Yeah.
He is just a stud on every level. And it keeps going. I mean, there's really...
You've also got some of these guys who, I mean, I'm going to be a homer and talk 2 USF guys. Dearness Johnson, he came in he started, I think, 3 games for Cleveland, and the lowest yards he had, it was 99 a season ago. He's got low mileage, should be cheap, 27 years old. Marlon Mack was a 1,000-yard rusher. Injuries kept him from seeing the field. He finally got back with Denver. He's not even 27 yet. So there's some of those veterans. Devin Singletary also. Alexander Madison. There's so many good names.
And I think running back, more than any other place, change of scenery can really make all the difference, right? Again, Jamal Williams was just being packaged in behind, where he was with Aaron Jones. And then, he gets an opportunity to come out and actually play, and you see what he's able to do. I think Detroit locks him up. I don't see any way you don't. It just makes too much sense for him and DeAndre Swift. They're a great tandem. One of the interesting things I saw, though, was the possibility of Leonard Fournette ending up back in Jacksonville.
They could use a power back to go with ETN.
Right. And you're right. Your Saints are going to have to get a back. And you're quite like us. We don't have a lot of draft picks here. So it's kind of a good year to be able to do that. And you can still get some people with tread on the tires. Guys like Josh Jacobs worry me. The workload catches up. It used to be the number of like when you hit 30, but it's not 30. I mean, you look at the number of touches and the number of carries that these guys have in the NFL, and it seems to happen every year. Like you said, Jonathan Taylor had a horrible year last year, and it was the year before, he was toting the ball or touching it 30 times a game. Well, Josh Jacobs has been doing that for 2 years. How long are you going to hold up under that? So can you afford to pay it? It is strange, though, that it used to be the glamour position. Running back was what you needed, and now it is so interchangeable that there's so many places that you can go with this.
And you can get guys who do different things well, and that's all you need.
And cheap. I mean, Miami did it pretty well last year with Mostert and, then Jeff Wilson coming in. You can do that. Other guys you talk about, Deontay Foreman, who never got a run in Houston and now went to Carolina and showed what he could do. Right.
11 backs had at least 760 rushing yards that are free agents this offseason. 11 of them.
It's crazy.
Uh, that's a lot. And that's not including guys like Kareem Hunt,
Yeah.
Rashad Penny, who,
Mhm.
was expected to be a starter. Uh, you know, yeah, there's not a lack of talent, but it's almost sadly devalued the position.
It really has. And then, like I say, you got a draft class that's being touted as one of the most talented running back classes in a decade. So you throw in all these young guys along with that, and there's not enough rocks to go around. But of all that we talk about devaluing it. But let's really look at the teams that were in the Super Bowl and or AFC, NFC championship games. Right? Buffalo hasn't had a running game in forever. I mean, right? I mean, I can't really remember the last time they had a running back that you really had to scheme against. Kansas City just plugs in Pacheco or whoever else it might be. Kenny Mixon, but we're talking about Mixon or Joe Mixon, he may be getting cut, right? And then in Philly did it with Gainwell,
And Miles
Sanders.
Sanders is a free agent. He's out the
Sanders
door.
is right. So it is a little strange that the position that used to be a must-have has become very interchangeable. But I think that's going to be some interesting stuff behind the scenes where these guys end up.
Yeah. Yeah. That will be another position to watch. And lastly, we want to hop on this real quick because we've got something special at the tail end of this. Couple rule changes. Shortly to explain them, one is a 4th and 15 onside kick. They've been talking about that for a while. And the other is having a third active quarterback who does not count against the active roster. Um, the NFC Championship game. One thing I want to say: the Niners lost that game the second Brock Purdy went down. Josh Johnson wasn't going to win them that game.
Right.
And neither would a guy who would be the third quarterback to Josh Johnson just because he is labeled a quarterback and could throw the ball better than Brock Purdy with a torn up elbow. So I think that used to be the rule that you could carry a third quarterback who was inactive. I just don't want it to be an overreaction to something that was not. How many third string quarterbacks are going to come in and be able to actually do anything to win the game? I just said, of course, Brock Purdy, but I think that's a nothing burger. I really do hope the onside. I'd be okay with that. A 4th and 15. It adds a lot of excitement to onside kicks. Aren't exciting, and I would bet the odds of getting a 4th and 15 are not that much higher than recovering an onside kick. I can't imagine that it's 10% or that kind of level.
No, unless you're playing the Dolphins, we have a tendency to go into some weird ass shell at that point. But I think the success early on with the XFL in its odd little way of in your first weekend, you have this 4th and 15 come into play as a team's making a comeback, and it allows them to keep the momentum and go down and score. I think that's a big time thing. Now, the other potential rule change that I do like a lot is the discussion of being able to review roughing the passer. I think if we're going to get ticky-tack with the way that everything is, I mean, I know it's still going to maybe come down to a judgment, but I think at least needs to be able to look at, right? I mean, some of these calls at least need to be able to the egregious ones to take another look at.
Yeah, I would co-sign that with you. Although it always scares me. My one thing, you know the way my brain works, is allowing the league or somebody's judgment call to come into play. Frankly, most people viewed when they did this with pass interference as a failure.
Yeah.
When they because frankly the league was too afraid to overturn calls really in that
Well, it's
in
hard when
that
you get into a judgment. That's the thing, right? I
yeah
mean, a hold is not a judgment. A spot of the ball is not a judgment. I mean, when it gets into that gray, it's really hard because of the word that comes into play, right?
and
Indisputable.
did
Indisputable.
they specify in that, is it only to challenge called roughing the quarterback? Because I would, if it goes the other way, I would definitely be opposed to it. If you
Yeah,
could,
no, I didn't see that, but that's a great point. Like to be able to challenge that, hey, you roughed him and didn't call it, like that would
because
just
then you'll
be,
start getting reviews for a guy's finger tapping his head, and
yeah,
that's where
and
it gets,
paralyzation by analyzation, right? Well, he technically did do, and yeah, it's. I just like some of these that are pretty egregious should be able to be looked at.
Yeah.
But again, it's indisputable, and it's hard to say someone's judgment is indisputable. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's it. I think our president and leader here at FL Teams is set to hop on just for a moment.
I don't know why I got a bad feeling about this.
Let's see. There you are.
How we doing, guys?
What's going on, boss?
There's nothing to have a bad feeling about. Isaac, you have something for us today?
Yeah. Well, I have to say, first of all, thanks to everyone that's watching. I hope the conversation keeps flowing about football because it's gonna go in some direction. I don't think it's gonna be in the direction that someone's gonna hope it's gonna go. Jeff knows what's going on. Jeremiah doesn't. Whatever.
No, I have a bad feeling though.
You're gonna love it. I promise.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to worry about it. If you thought your punishment couldn't get any worse,
Right?
I mean, you went through a 4-minute song, but I'll tell you, it is not over yet.
Yeah, this was the whole point of your punishment.
The gift that keeps on giving.
You ready? You ready?
Yeah.
You're gonna have fun. Don't you worry. And you have to watch this.
I'm already tearing up. It's horrible. I love it already. Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you. That is how I know you. Go on. Far across the distance and spaces between us, you have come to show you. Go on. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Once more, you open the door, and you're here in my heart, and my heart will go on. Damn you, Saints. Love can touch us one time and last for a lifetime. Can never let go till we're gone. Love was when I loved you one true time.
I mean, I don't know what's worse, the highlights or you singing.
The mixture is just beautiful. This is impressive.
I'm laughing more at Tua than Jeremiah.
Look.
Wow.
That thing is, my heart will go on as a Dolphin fan. Wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Once more, you open the door.
This is the part where I start covering my ears.
Yeah, it gets a little bad. And my heart will Go on.
By the way, that was the first play of his career. Well, the
Yeah.
first start of his
Yep.
career.
You had to put in the dancing too. I appreciate that. I feel like I should be on the front of my chair dancing.
There it is.
There it is.
You're here. There's nothing I fear, and I know that my heart will go on. We'll stay forever this way. You are safe in my heart, and my heart will go on and on. Great. We should have put this together for Tua's birthday. Oh.
This is Isaac Edelman editing, elite editing.
Well done. How long this song is until you're agonizing through it.
Yeah, how many? Look how
Great.
long Tua's highlights were. I mean,
yeah, highlights are questionable.
low light,
words there.
whatever.
Oh, you know what? My love letter to Tua.
Jeff, did you like these? I don't think you said. Look at these.
Oh yeah, I watched it earlier.
I love it. I feel a lot like Jack holding onto the door, and I just kind of let go and maybe just sink to the bottom. That is freaking great, dude. Isaac, that's top notch.
That was the whole reason you sang that song last week.
That's well played all the way through. That is fantastic, man. Look.
Well, credit to Jeff for coming up with that. I mean, credit to Celine Dion, because I guess if she didn't create that song, Jeff wouldn't have thought of that idea.
Literally, I could feel the pain of me singing and watching the highlights together. Like, I was getting emotional.
It was a good combination, honestly.
Yeah.
And the best part was we showed Tua's concussion and falling down at the worst part of your singing. That high note.
It's fitting.
Yeah.
God,
yeah.
you forget
Excellent
how many,
editing, Isaac.
God, you forget how many crazy, just horrible throws Tua made. Like, when you can condense it in 5 minutes, like, what the, like, some of those.
Well, in this case, maybe it was worse because you had to hear yourself sing in the background. But no, the highlights were terrible.
And an appropriate song for your relationship with the Dolphins as well.
Very appropriate. That's what I said. Like, I try to get away, but I'm going to be right there.
So there were levels to this punishment. It's done now.
Except
for this lives on the internet in perpetuity.
And by the way, I'm going to press publish right now on. Yeah. I didn't publish because I didn't want you to see it before the show, but I hope this goes viral. I mean, we need the combination of the song and Tua's lowlights, we'll call it. Amazing.
I think it's genius. I'm going to try to get this through Dolphin Twitter, and let's just let this roll.
But I'll send you the link to share the video of. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but all I could say is they're highlights, but they're lowlights. But for Tua, I guess they're highlights because.
Man, hey, look, it's like onions. This has layers. Like, you guys really outdid yourself on this.
I don't know if we could keep this going. I mean, is there another layer we can add? That's
not on this one, but
no.
Good news. March Madness is right around the corner. I was already recruiting. I went to see the Globetrotters this weekend with Steve and mentioned about getting involved in some March Madness. And also his better half, Jacqueline, wants to get involved in some of the football bets and stuff, or the other things that we do. So we'll bring some more people in.
Yeah, we'll definitely be covering some March Madness here on NFL Teams. Obviously, hopefully we have FAU in March Madness, which would be really nice. I'm a big FAU fan, but obviously Miami's going to be in it. They're ranked in the top 25. And even if it gets to a point where there's no Florida teams in it, we'll still cover it with pride. And, of course, there's still baseball happening, spring training, but we'll get the season coming up. I expect to do a Rays preview with you, Jeff, and I'll do a Marlins preview for myself, maybe I can get a special guest on. And then, of course, the NBA and NHL playoffs are coming up very soon. And believe it or not, the World Baseball Classic's going on. Maybe expect some coverage. I have some interesting contacts with some Dominican Republic people that speak amazing English. They love watching these games. So that would be something interesting because they have so much spirit and emotion when they speak about the World Baseball Classic. It's basically the Olympics, but for baseball because the MLB players are actually playing in it. So
yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Where else? I mean, look, as a guy who loves baseball and, played for as long as they let me and keeps involved, imagine Mookie Betts and Mike Trout in the same outfield. Like that's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, it's amazing to be able to see.
It's basically the MLB All-Star game, but obviously they're actually playing because the MLB removed the rule where the winner of the World Series gets to, host the World Series.
Yeah.
The winner of the All-Star game gets to host the World Series, whether it's American League or National League.
Hey, I think
Kevin in the comments here. That too.
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin. I'm gonna have to keep you on that deal because Kevin does amazing coverage for Fish Stripes. Fish Stripes is one of the best Marlin sources you could find. They're part of the SB Nation, and he's an amazing podcaster. Kevin, I'm gonna hold you to that, my man. We'll do a Marlins preview. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we don't just cover football here at FL Teams, but obviously, that's what this show has focused on since we really started doing it consistently right before football season. So,
So this is kind of a fun thing, right? We're going into our first real full off season of this, FL Teams Live on Wednesdays. So we can take this in a lot of different directions. I look forward to it. Like I want to be involved in all of this. I got a lot to learn about hockey, a lot to learn about baseball in Florida with those teams. So I'm here, man. So this is going to be a good time. It's always fun hanging out. And the unbelievable production from our producer extraordinaire over here and the many layers of Jeff Macolino for the punishment. Like this doesn't come around often.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah, but expect good coverage. And Jeff, if the Lightning make the playoffs, you have to tell our audience about these terrific Tampa Bay Lightning reaction videos.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You'll get my almost immediate after the final horn blows, you'll get my reaction as quickly as the internets allow it to go up. You'll get a post-game reaction from me in whatever state I may be in, and it generates a lot of trash talk from the opposing fans when the Lightning lose, but not a lot when the Lightning then beat them later on in the series.
Yeah, that's what happens these days.
Someone needs to make sure the Lightning know it's hockey season, let alone almost playoff time. By the way.
Yeah, and I tell you. Two big trades, Jonathan Quick and Patrick Kane. Those are two big time players moving on to different teams. The Rangers are just going to be even more toxic with Patrick Kane now because they got some Blackhawk fans probably bandwagoning. Oh, gosh. Anyway, yes, I know. No, it's going to happen. I mean, they're going to want to see Patrick Kane have success on the Rangers. So, yes, that's not a good mix. Whatever.
And last thing, Isaac, this video you provided tonight, this Tua video, may have beaten your video editing that you did in my response to the New York Rangers fans' trash talk last year. This trumped that.
That's true, but I hope it gets as much traction because, I mean, you can't beat Ranger fans in the comments, but we can figure something out. I mean, people do hate on Tua a lot, but I don't know if it will beat the Rangers talk. We'll see.
We'll see. I'll try to push
it. I got faith. We're going to push them.
All right. That'll wrap it up for FL Teams Live tonight. Jeremiah, your punishment is officially over. Again, we just had to get the recording of the audio so we could get the video. So,
beautifully crafted.
Yeah, but I did edit it in a way where you could still see him singing at certain points. It was perfect.
Oh, it's perfect. It really is.
It might go to Canton. It might be Hall of Fame worthy. Not Tua, but our video.
Tua, but the video.
Oh yeah, not Tua, definitely.
No. All right. Well, For Miss Celine Dion or Jeremiah Hensley, I keep getting you mixed up. And for our leader here at FL Teams, Isaac Edelman, I am Jeff Macolino. We will see you next week.